Alright, if you're into music, hip-hop especially, one of a few things is going on right now. One, you just heard Let God Sort 'Em Out by Clipse, and you're absolutely amazed by the album. Album of the year, you've seen all the reviews, it's awesome. Two, you're not really familiar with who Clipse is, you're seeing a lot of praise for the album, don't really understand the hype, maybe haven't listened to it yet, just kind of going along with whatever. Or three, you're a Travis Scott fan who's wondering why a couple of old guys are dissing him on an album everyone is calling a masterpiece. And maybe subtly defending Jack Boys 2 in the background, but that's not the important part. The unexpected return from the duo Clipse, which consists of brothers Pusha T and Malice, going from kind of a nostalgia-fueled excitement that there is a new Clipse album to this album being regarded as probably the best of the year so far. This album was years in the making, discussing a lot of things that happened over the group's hiatus, lots of things going on in their personal life, and also lots of problems that they've been having with people recently. It's hard, it's heavy, it's awesome, but it has occurred to me that a lot of people don't understand how this album came to be, or even the history behind Clipse. And as with any piece of new music, a lot of the discussion right now is focused on reviewing or critiquing the album. That's not what I want to do. Today we're going to talk about Clipse, what they are as a group, the rollout and lead up to this album, and just how important this is for hip hop. If you don't know, my name is Henry, I love music. This is where I talk about it. I make a lot of different kinds of music commentary videos, so you should subscribe because it'd be cool. We just hit 1,000 subscribers not too long ago and I'm ever so thankful. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video, but let's keep talking about the absolute juggernaut of a duo that is Clipse. For the people that don't really know the background of Clipse or who Pusha T and Malice are as artists, I'm going to explain them really quickly. I have timestamps in the description. If you already know who these people are and you don't want to hear the explanation, feel free to skip ahead. Pusha T and Malice are two brothers from Virginia Beach who formed the duo Clipse, originally being known as Terror and Malicious. The two were discovered by legendary producer Pharrell Williams, who convinced them to work together, which led to a lot of the music in Clipse's career being produced by Pharrell or the Neptunes. Also, quick side note, the most recent and probably the most accurate retelling of Pusha T's early career is from the Pharrell Lego movie. I think that's really funny. And no bias, but Lego Pusha T was a highlight of that movie. After a lot of label switches and releasing music to varying degrees of success, the two ended up taking a hiatus after their album Till the Casket Drops. The two would go on very different paths in their solo careers after this hiatus, with Malice changing his name to No Malice, converting to Christianity, and leaning more into the Christian hip-hop side of things. And Pusha T becoming the head of Kanye West's old label Good Music, becoming a household name within hip-hop, and even getting into one of the most notorious and consequential beefs in hip-hop history with Drake. Yeah, if you think the Kendrick and Drake beef was anything, the whole reason Adonis is as in the spotlight as he is with Drake is because of Pusha T. So you can thank him for making Drake be a good father. But after creating more music in each of their solo careers, it led to a kind of surprise reunion on Kanye West's album Jesus is King. They were featured on the song Use This Gospel with Kenny G, and this was the first official reunion and the first new official piece of music we had gotten from Clipse since 2009 or 2010. Clipse returned once again for a feature on Japanese producer Nigo's album I Know Nigo. And something I want to point out here is from this point on, No Malice would start being credited as Malice again. It was such a big deal and it spoke to the return and the prevalence of that 90s and 2000s rap and the significance that we were about to see it play in the current scene. So the two are working on new music again, specifically a new album. And just like old times, Pharrell is becoming a big part of this project. We didn't know exactly how big of a part he was going to play, and I'll discuss that later, but we knew that he was going to be a part of it. So the three of them, Pusha, Malice, and Pharrell, are all together at the Louis Vuitton HQ, where all of a sudden we get a new person added to the list of significant people in this album, Travis Scott. Oh, Travis, what have you done now? As I was saying, while the three of them were together, Travis barged into the room and started talking about how excited he was that all three of them were in the same place and that he wanted to show them his new album, which was Utopia. Obviously, none of us were in the room at the time, so we don't really know what the dynamic was. We don't know if Travis was invited, not invited, how eager everybody was to listen to that album, but Pusha and Malice said that they weren't really fans of it. He was filming them listen to the music, he was hyping them up, and I feel like at this point, this interaction wasn't enough to be featured or referenced on the new Clipse album until Travis played Drake's verse on Meltdown a week later. According to Pusha and Malice, Travis had showed them Meltdown, but it was only his verse. And as I'm sure you remember, Pusha T and Drake don't exactly like each other. So imagine you're Pusha and Malice listening to this album kind of being used for like hype and reaction material, to learning a week later that Travis collabed with Drake, essentially holding back a very important piece of information that would have decided a lot about Clipse's opinion on that album. So that in combination, they weren't really a fan of Travis Scott. This is gonna come up again later. But it was then revealed during a Louis Vuitton fashion show in 2024 that yes, Clipse did have new music, as the song Birds Don't Sing got played at that event, to then announcing that the album Let God Sort 'Em Out by Clipse, fully produced by Pharrell, was coming. Now if you think everything was all fine and dandy leading up to the album release and the album just came out, you would be entirely wrong. Like, so completely wrong. At the time, Clipse and Pusha T as a solo artist were signed to Def Jam Records, which is a subgroup of Universal Music Group. And as I'm sure you're aware, Universal Music Group was a big talking point and had a lot of involvement in the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. I know, it's very surprising how much Drake contributed to a lot of the setbacks on this album, but also a little bit of the material on this album. Not material like he produced or like helped on it, but like what they were rapping about. You know what I mean. We would also learn from Pusha T that since 2018, Def Jam was trying to suppress or just completely remove a lot of the content that Pusha T would rap about Drake. And that was no different from Let God Sort 'Em Out. They wanted Kendrick's verse off the album, no questions asked about it. And obviously, as we know the album now, the Kendrick Lamar feature is still there. So what happened exactly? What happened was a complete and total contract buyout, with Clipse paying an undisclosed 7-figure sum to Def Jam to be dropped from their deal completely. They went on to sign with Roc Nation instead, but still agreed to pay Def Jam a portion of the album's earnings. Which honestly is a crazy move by them to completely double down and fight for this feature, so much so that you have to just completely buy out your own contract. And I know I didn't pay any of the money for it, but I say it's worth it. That song was really good. Now that we're in 2025, the lead single for the album Ace Trumpets released. They did a color show rendition of the song, as well as a Tiny Desk performance, and then the album released. Also, quick fun fact about the album, the song Chains and Whips, which was the Kendrick Lamar feature, was made available early, right before the album's release. I believe it was like a few hours before. But now we have the first Clipse album in about 15 years, Let God Sort 'Em Out, which is a 13-track, almost 41-minute album, with a few important features like Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, and Stove God Cooks. Oh my goodness, you don't know how cool it was to read his name on the feature list whenever it dropped. I'm just a big Griselda fanboy, you got me, that's all it is, it's just hype, but it was really cool seeing that. Now that we've got the rollout out of the way, I want to talk about the lyrical contents of this album, because I feel like the biggest critique or problem people have with Clipse or older rappers is that they feel like they've run out of things to talk about or just don't have anything interesting to say, which I think is really dumb. I think the opposite is true, to where as you grow older and as you experience more things and have different outlooks on things that happened in the past, you have a lot more to talk about. And Clipse showed that really well on this album while talking about grief, past friendships, different childhood struggles, with specifically the first song, Birds Don't Sing, talking very in-depth about their father and about how much he meant to them and how much his passing affected them. It's a very, very heavy song, a very sad one to start the album with, but it's completely amazing. But of course, this is a Clipse album. This is Pusha T and Malice. This album was not without its callouts. The two called out a few different people on this album, but most notably, Travis Scott and Kanye West. Travis Scott's callout was pretty self-explanatory. It referenced the Meltdown incident from 2023, but something I didn't mention when I initially talked about it is that another blow from that verse was that Drake is like dissing Pharrell the entire time. So it wasn't just Pusha and Malice that Travis was pissing off, it was Pharrell, and that's where kind of this whole debacle came from. And they didn't hold back any punches on Travis either. He was getting killed on that album, and in interviews after the album, they were just calling him like soft and harmless the whole time. But I think the more important call out on this album was Pusha T talking about Kanye West, and as I'm sure you know, is on a bit of a journey recently. As I mentioned earlier, Pusha T used to be signed to Kanye's label Good Music and eventually became the head of that label, with the two collaborating pretty closely and fairly frequently on a lot of their earlier projects from that era. But obviously with the direction that Ye went, a lot of the connections or friends that he had from that time disassociated with him, as they should have. Ye has said recently that he misses the friendship that him and Pusha had in the earlier days. Pusha said, "I bet you do, I do not." One other important call out I want to mention is on the Tyler verse. Tyler mentioned someone that he had featured on one of his songs, threatened to sue him. A lot of people instantly thought he was talking about Playboi Carti and got really upset, but it's never been confirmed that it was Carti. A lot of people think it was Haji Beats, but that's all I'm going to say about that. But now that we've talked about the lyrical contents, let's talk about why people are really loving this album and really regarding it as one of the best to come out this year. I believe it's a few things. One, the album is simply just amazing. It's really good. Pharrell's production on the album is astonishing. It's very good and complements the two very well. The two rappers have also aged very well. The things that they talk about don't seem out of place or out of time. And while they are still bringing up things that they're known to talk about, like the drug trade, they're bringing it up in very inventive ways and also bringing on subject matter like grief and other stuff that I talked about previously that is honestly really refreshing to hear from older voices in this scene. Two, I think the audience of this album really likes that they're not holding back. They don't hold back any transgressions they have with people. They don't sugarcoat things, and they're also not afraid to talk about what they're struggling with. I think it's very cool when older voices, and not just hip hop, but in music in general, talk about their struggles and talk about really heavy subjects, because it sheds an older perspective on those things that younger audiences might not really be accustomed to. And three, it's obviously very hard to deny that the ongoing tensions and beef within this scene are fueling people's enjoyment of this album. While this is never going to be someone's main reason from enjoying this album, you can't deny that hearing Pusha and Malice just throw punches at anybody and everybody is very satisfying to hear. Let God Sort 'Em Out is going to be one of those albums where if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, listen to it again, because you missed something and you will eventually. This is by far one of my favorite albums that has come out this year. I implore you to go watch the interviews that Pusha and Malice have done as a lead up and in post of this album releasing. And if you haven't listened to it yet, please go listen to it. It's so awesome. But that being said, I'm gonna cap it off there. Thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned earlier, I just reached 1,000 subs a few weeks ago, and I am really wanting to do a 1,000 subscriber special. I have a poll open on my channel that I'm gonna leave open for another week, where you can decide if you want a Q&A, a specific topic talked about for a video, or you can comment and suggest any other ideas. I would really love to give back to the people that have made this a possibility for me and have kept me motivated to do this sort of thing. It's amazing, I'm very appreciative, and I wanna give back in some kind of way. So let me know, but anyways, I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Goodbye.